Recovery Elevator episode 576.
I felt like there was two people. There was me when I was sober, and then as soon as I had one drink, it was like somebody else was taking over.
Welcome to the Recovery Elevator podcast. My name is Paul Churchill. This is how we quit. On today's episode, we have Tom. He's 40 years old from New Canaan, Connecticut, and he took his last drink of alcohol on July 12th, 2024. Great job, Tom. Happy March, everyone. Spring is right around the corner, and the Cafe RE monthly theme for March is mindfulness and awareness. All of our monthly themes are great, but this is a big one. When we are mindful, we build awareness. When we have awareness, we are building space. When we have space, we then have room. When we have room, we then, and only then, have the freedom to choose something different than drinking. This month in Cafe RE, we've got specialty chats for this specific topic. And it was the Indian spiritual teacher Krishnamurti who said you could take the most powerful medicines of the East, the most powerful medicines of the West, combine them, and you still don't have the power of awareness. A footnote, I'm 95% sure it was him who said that. Recovery Elevator is compiling recovery stories for a new book called This Is How We Quit. And if all goes as planned, this thing comes out July 24th. If you want to be part of this project and submit your story, we'd love to have you. There's no sobriety time requirement. So if you're thinking, well, I've only been sober for 30 days, I can't submit my story, that's nonsense. We still want to hear from you. The whole point of this book is helping others find hope and freedom from alcohol. You're going to feel incredible knowing that your challenges and adversity have helped somebody else break free. So send an email to info@recoveryelevator.com and we'll send you a Google form to fill out where you can submit your story. And before we get any further, let's hear from SoberLink. There's something about the new year that feels like a collective sigh of relief. The calendar flips, schedules can breathe, and you finally have a moment to take stock of how far you've come and where you want to go next. If you're ready to take your recovery to the next level, I have one word for you: SoberLink. SoberLink isn't just a breathalyzer. It's the connective tissue between sobriety and trust. The difference between are they sober and I know they're sober. Here's how it works. You test at scheduled times throughout the day. Built-in facial recognition confirms it's really you, and tamper sensors prevent you from cheating. Within seconds, your results are shared with your support network, like your sponsor or loved ones. Recovery's hard enough. Proving your sobriety shouldn't have to be. Visit www.soberlink.com/recovery-elevator to sign up and claim your $100 enrollment bonus. Again, that's soberlink.com/recovery-elevator to claim your $100 enrollment bonus. There's a link in the show notes as well. Hey, a word on SoberLink. We only work with brands that line up with our mission, and we've been working with them for over 4 years, I think. Great people, great team. And thank you for supporting our sponsors over the years. Okay, let's get started. Someone sent me a great passage on The Cost of Your New Life by author Brianna Wiest, so I'm going to read it here. Your new life is going to cost you your old one. It's going to cost you your comfort zone and your sense of direction. It's going to cost you relationships and friends. It's going to cost you being liked and understood. It doesn't matter. The people who are meant for you are going to meet you on the other side. You're going to build a new comfort zone around the things that actually move you forward. Instead of being liked, you're going to be loved. Instead of being understood, you're going to be seen. All you're going to lose is what was built for a person you no longer are. Remaining attached to your old life is the first and final act of self-sabotage, and releasing it is what we must prepare for to truly be willing to see real change. Damn, Beautifully written, Brianna Wiest. I love the last part about remaining attached to your old life is the first and final act of self-sabotage. So good. Listeners, I hope you enjoyed today's intro. Next week, we have a big one for our intro in 577. I'm going to tell you why you drink. And before we get any further, I want to mention this is an ad by BetterHelp. In March, we've got International Women's Day. It's a moment to celebrate women's strength and progress while also recognizing how much they carry every day. I know in our own household, my wife does so much heavy lifting, especially now that we have a child that seems to run around the house and just make messes everywhere. So listeners, I want you to take a moment and pause and reflect on the roles that women play in your lives, and also think about the expectations placed on them and the pressures that they feel. Women, you all deserve major kudos and support. With over 30,000 therapists, BetterHelp is the world's largest online therapy platform, and they've got an average rating of 4.9 stars out of 5, and there's 1.7 million client reviews. Women, your emotional well-being matters. Find support and feel lighter in therapy. Sign up and get 10% off BetterHelp.com/elevator. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/elevator. Tom, how are you?
Doing well.
Right on, Tom. It's good to be here with you. Let's get right into it. When was your last drink of alcohol?
My last drink was July 12th, 2024.
Right on, man. A year and a half plus-ish around there. How do you feel?
I feel great. I feel the best that I have in probably 20 years.
Right on. And listeners, we're doing this via Zoom. We can see each other. I love the backgrounds here. Some people join in their office, in a laundry room. I've seen it all. Tom is in his car. Just finished up with work. Am I correct?
Yeah, we just wrapped up. I'm a construction superintendent for a living, so we work early, we start early, and we end 3:30, 4 o'clock.
What time is working early?
We get here 6:30.
Well, you just answered what does your professional life look like, but Tom, give us some more background about you. You know, where are you calling in from? What's your age? Maybe what your family life looks like. And then most importantly, what do you like to do for fun?
So as I said, I'm a construction superintendent. I live in Fairfield County, Connecticut. I have a great wife, and I have twins that are 5 years old. We love to do some stuff with the kids. If I can find time to do it, I like to play golf. I like skiing, and I'm trying to get my kids into skiing these days. So we do a lot of activities with them, which is great. It's a big part of my life.
Right on. Did you say 40?
40. I'm 40 years old.
Okay, gotcha. I bet with the job, it's kind of cool to see you start, you show up somewhere, and then you put the bulldozer in the ground, and then you leave several months later, and it's finished. Does that feel
Yeah,
good?
you get a lot of gratification that you could see. You kind of show up every day, and you see a little bit more, and you see a little bit more, and it makes it easy to stay engaged in your work. It's not mundane. It's not monotonous. You're doing something different every day.
And I'm curious to hear about parenting sober and then parenting not sober. Your kids are 5. You got sober a year and a half ago, so you've had a little bit of both. We'll get to that when we get to it, but Tom, go ahead and start with your story with alcohol. I'm going to jump in with questions. Let's do it.
So my first drink was at the age of 14, and I remember I had friends over at my house. We drank like a Carlos Rossi jug of wine or something that we stole, and some warm Heinekens. We got really, really drunk. I remember it being a bad hangover. I think one of my friends was puking, and that just kind of kicked off what was the next 5, 6 years of my life easy.
Tom, do you remember the feeling from your first drunk?
Yeah, I remember kind of just feeling like sedated. For the majority of the time that I was drinking, I would black out maybe 75% of the time. Even when I wasn't drinking so much, whatever it was, I would just kind of black out really quickly. So that started right in high school, and we would drink a lot of beer and we would take shots, and I would end up in a situation where I'd wake up in a friend's house's bedroom, and sometimes there was throw up on the floor next to me. Sometimes I didn't really remember how I got there. We kind of had a culture of binge drinking through high school. At the end of high school, it was my senior year, I got arrested for having a bunch of alcohol in my car. So right off the bat, there was consequences that I wasn't taking seriously. Went to college. I was drinking a lot. Same thing, binge drinking. I get arrested again when I'm 20 for having a fake ID. 2 times within a 3-year period. I'm getting potential life-altering consequences from drinking. The fake ID is actually still on my record. So every time I change jobs or every time I apply for anything, that one actually still sticks with me, which is bad. It's been something that I've had to deal with throughout time. I would say around the age of 21, I would have the same drinking, but started doing a good amount of cocaine. And that would give me the ability to not black out as quickly. So it kind of gave me the ability to drink as much as I wanted. So that was probably throughout my 20s. After college, still had similar friends. We all kind of moved close together. So it was, again, mostly drinking to excess on the weekends, but more in a social environment. I would say around 24, that's when I kind of started drinking during the week by myself. And so it kind of went from Sunday, I felt like hell, and I was just waiting to get through the workday so then I could drink, stop the way that I was feeling.
Tom, did you have friends at this period? They're 24, 25, kind of entering professional life. Did you notice your friends kind of phasing out and then you began ramping up?
I think when we were all together, it was usually at a time that they would still kind of hold on to drinking too much. But I know they weren't drinking during the week. They were pretty much just managing it, and then we would have fun on the weekend and kind of drink to excess for sure. But for me, it kind of wouldn't stop. So Monday rolled into Tuesday, Tuesday rolled into Wednesday, and the issue is when I'd start, I wouldn't stop. So I would drink at home by myself, or on a rare occasion during the week, I'd drink with somebody else. But it really just became a habit where I would drink. I still had my job that I had to wake up early, 5 o'clock in the morning. I'd have to wake up and I would just feel like absolute hell. And it was every day just kind of waiting until I got through my workday, so then I could stop feeling that way and just have another drink. I had this internal battle where every time that would happen, so it's every day, I would wake up in the morning and I'd look at myself in the mirror and I'd say, how the fuck did you do this again? How are we here again? Why do you have to drink so much? Why can't I only have 1 or 2? And I kind of grew to the point that it was I felt like there was 2 people. There was me when I was sober, and then as soon as I had 1 drink, it was somebody else was taking over, and they were driving, and they would drive into a tree. They would just run me right into a bad position.
Tom, I want to highlight something you just said. Listeners, if there's somebody out there asking themselves, why do I make this promise to myself daily in harsh language, only then later in the evening find myself drinking? I can tell you right now, you're not alone. And I think the biggest comfort of this podcast is recognizing that, oh, wait a second, I'm not the only person that has done this. My head's going up and down. Yep, check. Everybody who's listening has been there. Tom, was that voice as strong as you made it sound? Pretty intense, why the fuck are we still doing this? Was it a personal diatribe, talking shit to the self?
I was hard on myself every morning. It was I was just angry with myself. I would look in the mirror and I hated the person that I saw. And it was just every single morning. There was a few days where I'd, go on a stretch where I didn't drink for a few days, but definitely not after the age of 30. After 30, it was 7 days a week. I'd buy a 6-pack of heavy IPA beer, 7.5% plus. I'd tell myself I'd only have 1 or 2. I would drink 6, and then I'd probably find whatever else I could find. So that was typical day to day.
Tom, was there a moment when you realized, okay, these really fierce pep talks aren't working? I'm just going to say, hey, this is my life. I'm just drinking.
I have, a great wife. I have like so many things that I felt like I was still fighting to like be the person I wanted to be, the good husband, and eventually become a good father. But I never kind of succumbed to it as my sober self. I never thought to myself, I'm just going to give up and let this guy take over. It was more of just a daily struggle and a battle, like Jekyll and Hyde, two different people. I struggled through with that in my 30s. We had twins during COVID in 2020. And for everybody on the podcast that has kids, I would get sleep after I drank and I could kind of wake up when I wanted to. There's no rhyme or reason to the kids. So I started becoming angry when I would be either drinking too much or I would get woken up after I drank too much. And that person I couldn't stand. It was now affecting my life in a really bad way. I think that became the ultimate reason why I quit, was because I realized that it was going to take a toll on my life as a dad. My wife, she had it. She was 1 foot out the door. I'm lucky that they stuck around, but I really just did the same thing. I mean, I was thinking about it the other day. I've spent 600 days sober. I probably had that situation where I looked myself in the mirror being hungover and hating myself for 2,000 days. It's a crazy amount of time when I think about it. And really, that was kind of it for me. I think I wasn't really binge drinking on the weekend. I kind of kept the same thing going, but I would drink every night. I basically put myself in a position that every day started really, really poorly. And the effect that it was having on my life was I was going nowhere. Everything that I had in front of me was just going to go away. We have the kids, we have a house, we have mortgage payment, we have a lot of things that like I need to be present for the family. And as soon as I finished work, I know I would get home, I'd put a beer down on the counter and I'd pop it. And I can just imagine how much my wife hated that. Now I think about it and I'm like, man, you were such an ass. I would just do my thing. I'd get home, and most of the time I'd get a 6-pack and I'd pop one before I got home or 2 before I got home. And it was always just the same routine. After work, put myself in a bad position, start the day feeling like hell, and then rinse and repeat. It was a constant struggle.
Tom, I want to recognize your achievement. You got double whammied there on this podcast. It's like, and then COVID happened, and then you had twins, right? That's a lot. And you came closer to the fire and you eventually quit drinking through all of that. Like you rose to the occasion. Not everybody does. Well, a lot of fathers peace out during that process, adios. So I see you. I see what you have done. Incredible. And I want to comment what you said earlier, how you start every day in like a shitty mind state, in a tough position. And that's what we're doing to ourselves over and over. We've heard it called life on hard mode, right? And that's exactly what it is. Did something happen on July 12th, or was it a culmination of everything, being sick and tired and being so sick and tired of it all?
I was at a point that I just hated myself. My wife, she was gone. It was basically, if you don't stop, then I'm leaving, I'm taking the kids. She didn't want to go. I mean, it was one of those situations where it was like, she wanted me to not be that way. She wanted me to not be drinking, not putting us in this position. He warned me so many times, and she should have given up on me. She really should have given up, but she didn't. And she stayed. On July 12th, I started a new job the following Monday, and it was kind of like a clean slate. If you're going to continue down this path, it's not going to be with my wife and kids. It's going to be me by myself, just continuing to kill myself, put myself in a bad situation, and day-to-day misery overall. Or that day, it was kind of like making the decision of, do I want to earn the right to have a family? I remember just thinking about it. I said, if I can give up drinking and basically just start my life where we could start fresh. And my kids are young enough that they're not going to remember me drunk. Can I start fresh? And on that day, I really did. Everything in my life since that day has been great. But it took a lot to get to that day. A lot. And I can honestly say, like, along the way, I never really thought about stopping drinking. I would have these struggles and these arguments, and on the podcast, we always talk about moderation, and it's like I would try to do the same thing to myself. I'd say, well, tonight I have one beer. I'm just going to take the edge off from being hungover from last night. That does not work. That is not a viable option. It's 1 to 100. As soon as it hit my lips, the other guy was taking over. It wasn't me anymore. Giving up all that, I had never really thought about it. And believe it or not, it just never really came into my head. So I kind of just mentally put myself in the situation, and I said, I got to do it for me, because if I don't, I'm going to lose my family. I do it for my wife and my kids, but first and foremost is I have to do it for myself, because something else could happen and my wife could leave me, or things can go away that are around you. I'm doing this first and foremost for myself. It doesn't matter. I'm not going to drink in secret or try to hide something from somebody because I'm doing it for them. I'm doing it for me. I'm going to look myself in the mirror and know that I'm feeling better. I'm basically giving this up for a good reason. And since that day I have, it's been fantastic.
Tom, what was the next day like? Your first day? You said 2,000 days you went one way, waking up feeling like shit, hating yourself, self-pump up talk in the morning with harsh language. How did you do it the next day? Or was the desire gone?
It was kind of just odd, and I think I kind of just felt like I was in a weird place. And a couple of days in a row, basically waking up, being not hungover and basically feeling better, I had a weird space that it seemed like I couldn't fill. My mind used to be so preoccupied with, how do I feel when I'm hungover? Like, oh, I can't do this because I drank too much last night. Like, I'm not going to be able to tackle that. I got to do that tomorrow. It was like half of my brain was dedicated towards some sort of alcohol, whether recovering from a hangover, thinking about having my next drink, whatever it was. It took up so much headspace, and it was hard at first because I would kind of just feel like I didn't have anything to do. It was like I wasn't really occupied with that burden. And honestly, it was awkward. I ended up talking with an alcohol counselor kind of weekly for a while. He really helped me through navigating those feelings. Things come up day to day, things happen that are going to change your state of mind. And it's uncontrollable things, and you may have joy, you may have sadness, and all these things I didn't experience without drinking. So now all of a sudden they're happening, and trying to learn how to deal with them. I was like an emotional baby, and I had to kind of build myself up to actually be able to deal with emotions and not try to hide them or bury them in drinking. I would say through the first 6 months, that was a big challenge. But, I started feeling a lot better physically. I started exercising more, and now I still do. I wake up every morning and I exercise before work. And that gets my mind into a really great state. It gives me kind of resilience to make sure that my head's in a good space as I start every day. Now when I wake up, even on the worst day where I don't feel fantastic, getting up and working out it's hard, but then I remind myself, I said, no, it's not that hard. What was harder was waking up after just ruining yourself with a monster hangover and getting up and then going to work for 8 hours. That was hard.
I loved how you phrased that. I've said it a couple times on this podcast, is the only thing harder than quitting drinking was to not quit drinking. You just said the same thing. This is hard. Oh, wait a second. But waking up feeling like dog turds 7 days a week, and then going to work that's way harder. Tom, I heard the alcohol counselor weekly. Love it. It's awesome. Anything else in terms of official meetings? I haven't heard AA. Were there books you read, podcasts, things like that?
I've listened to every podcast that you've done or Recovery Elevator podcast since July 12th. I love it because on Mondays, it kind of gets my week set up. People's stories it keeps you aware of the fact that it's like, I've been away from it for like a year and a half, but I'm still an alcoholic. It's there. And listening to people's stories and kind of how they come through it and the resilience, because it is true what they say. You can't do it alone. You need to kind of have a community of people, because I think otherwise you would just think that you're crazy. You're just this one person living on an island who can't handle alcohol, and the rest of the world is drinking. That's what you think. But we're not alone. And a lot of people go through the same struggle. I think it's Dr. Anna Lemke. She's like the dopamine doctor.
Yeah, Dopamine Nation, her book a couple years ago.
Yeah, so she phrases it like, the addiction is like having a really bad itch. So you cannot scratch it if you keep it in the top of your mind, if you're aware of it. And you're not going to scratch it. You're not going to itch at it. But the second that you stop thinking about it, innately you're going to go back and you're going to scratch it. So it's keeping the idea in my head that it's always going to be with me. I'm always going to be an alcoholic, but I got it controlled. It's not coming back into my life because I know what it is.
Tom, thanks for listening. I'm honored to be on this podcast with you and to have you on this journey with all of us in the RE audience. What do you think has been the biggest challenge in the last 19 months without alcohol?
I think one of the hardest things is, I had a lot of I have a lot of really good friends, all the people that I went up through high school with and a lot of college. I haven't really seen them. We talk every once in a while, but I think that's the difficult piece because they're still doing the same thing we were doing. All of them could just kind of turn it on and off. That's the only challenge, is that's going to feel like falling back into what I used to do. And so I kind of lost touch with them. But at the end of the day, that's once every couple of months, maybe I do that. I got to be me every day. So if I have to pick and choose on the things that I lose in my life because I stopped drinking, I could live with that.
Tom, that's such a great way to say that. The times where you get together with your high school or college boys, that's once a month, once every 2 months, whenever. But you got to be with yourself every day. That was beautiful.
Yeah. And being a father there's no days off.
Talk to us about that. How is being a father sober? I imagine waking up without a hangover, that's a better way to start your day.
Yeah. My wife would be yelling at me to wake up to take care of the kids. It was every weekend, right? Usually during the week, I'm out before they wake up. And then I would come home and I'd try to help around the house, but I was useless. That whole process of trying to be involved as a parent and basically share some of the load while still having a good time with my kids and enjoying it. And while I was drinking, I would wake up as this miserable, awful guy, and I would make my kids breakfast probably just in a terrible mood. Anything that would happen would make me snap. My emotions were not under my control at all. And I would start drinking on the weekend early. It would just be 10 o'clock in the morning. I'd start drinking and I'd go through the day. Never spent time to kind of see how my kids were growing, appreciate what having my kids is, and getting to enjoy seeing them grow up. And now I enjoy that. I wake up before the kids. I'm ready for them to wake up. They come downstairs. I'm there. I have breakfast ready for them. And then I give my wife some time. She wakes up with them every day during the week. So I give her some time away and she can kind of sleep in or do whatever she wants to do. And I usually get the kids out of the house and do something with them, which is great. It's good bonding time. It's a world of difference.
Tom, it sounds like you're showing up. You're showing up for your wife. You're showing up for your kids. You're showing up for the idea of the family that you're investing in. And you're showing up for yourself. And I think that's what a life without alcohol allows us to do. Can you remember anything from a past interviewee? Maybe you were listening month 1, month 2, month 3, thinking how the F am I going to do this? Any value bombs from previous episodes that perhaps stuck with you?
Yeah, there's one in particular. I can't remember who said it, but it was, if alcohol is causing problems in your life, you've got a problem with alcohol. It's just that simple. If it's causing problems in your life, then you've got a problem with alcohol. Those things where it kind of seems like it should have been so obvious, it's only somebody who's been through it before that you can kind of make it so simple, but it just hits home.
Yeah, we get so tripped up on the word alcoholic, alcohol use disorder, whatever, but then something lands so true. Look, if it's causing problems, you gotta ditch the booze. I got a couple more questions before we hit the rapid fire round. Has there been like a higher power or spirituality that's a big part in the sobriety space? Anything there?
I mean, I think I always kind of believe that somebody's looking out for me. I know that life is greater than basically just being here, but I'm not really a religious person. I was raised Catholic, but if you had asked me while I was drinking, I would have said that there's nothing after life. Now it's like there is something out there that's greater than me, and it's greater than my family, and I know somebody's looking out for me, and I owe them. I got to continue doing the right thing to kind of repay that debt.
Tom, in the construction industry, my parents owned a glass business. I grew up doing construction, installing glass when I grew up, but had that job for several summers. Drinking is rampant in that industry. And it's funny, we talked about this in a chat in Cafe RE, and everybody mentioned their industry. Like, no, you don't know what it's like to be a real estate agent. No, you don't know what it's like to do this. But in construction, yeah, drinking is part of it. Have you been open with other employees or other coworkers of yours? Do they know that you not drink? Has there been people like, yo, Tom, the day's over, bro. Here you go.
People that I'm around for a long period of time, because I have a lot of subcontractors that are kind of, they're in and out, so I don't necessarily develop a big relationship with them. But, after I was working with somebody for a good period of time, I'll say, listen, I'm an alcoholic. I don't drink. And people within my company, the first time that I went on a golf outing, it's, a bunch of construction people out on a golf course. There's a lot of booze flying around. But the guy that I was playing with for my company, somebody had asked me if I wanted to drink. And I said, no, I don't drink. And when I got back to the golf cart, he looked at me and he said, oh, you don't drink. Did you give it up like for a reason? And I said, well, yeah, I did. I gave it up for a big reason. And he said, I'm 17 years sober myself. And I was like, oh, shit. You find connection with people all around you. And it's a hard business to kind of stay sober in, but he's been doing it for 17 years. I think you just have to figure out how to navigate the whole conversation of going out and doing these things that are all part of construction and life. People are going to be drinking, and it's how do you kind of respond when people say, well, why aren't you drinking? And I think that's gotten easier nowadays to kind of say, well, it's not good for you. I'm trying to take care of myself. Or, you could just be honest and say, I don't drink because I gave it up a long time ago. And I feel like if you just come back and you say to somebody, no, I don't drink because I'm an alcoholic, it's an awkward situation that happens after that. So I think declining in a way where I just say like, oh, I'm trying to get back in shape and it's not good for my health. How do you avoid that first time that somebody takes a cold beer and puts it in front of your face? How do you turn that away?
Yeah, this might be hard to grasp, listeners, but when I take my work hat off, I'm not that vocal about my recovery. But yeah, occasionally I have to say, I don't drink, I'm good. And a very common response is what you just heard, Tom. It was like, oh, no way, I'm 3 years sober. 17 years sober, like you said. There's a lot of people who struggle with alcohol, but there's more people than ever who have ditched the booze and would actually call themselves sober, in recovery, or whatever verbiage. So I get that all the time. No way. Yeah, me too. It's been X amount of time. Or another very common response is, yeah, I'm getting on it. Like I'm working on it myself. Another common response, like I have a parent, I have a brother who's struggling. So when I find I open up about it, and it doesn't have to be open, it can be like, I don't drink. That's clear. But it's not like, I don't drink, I'm an alcoholic, pull up a chair, here's what went down, the fire swamp, Dolce Vita, my book, my podcast. It's just, I don't drink. They always respond like, oh, okay, cool. I've always had good responses with that. Okay, one more question before the rapid fire round. Let's talk hobbies. Have any hobbies returned to your life that maybe were dormant for a couple decades? Like how you said 50% of your mental bandwidth was allocated to alcohol. That sounds about right. How are you filling up that time?
I've really gotten back into exercising, and so I run. I use the elliptical all the time. Exercising and taking care of my body is like a hobby now, because I always enjoyed it when I was younger. And now it's easier than it's been in a long time. I would try to exercise through drinking, but it was like, you feel like hell. So it was really hard in the struggle. So now I get to enjoy it. I really like exercising and trying to keep myself in good shape. I like woodworking. I've been into woodworking really my whole life. I can kind of go through something and do it with a lot different frame of mind than I was, because I would do it while I was drinking and I would kind of mess around. Now is I can genuinely enjoy it, and I can kind of see a piece of furniture or a cabinet that I build, and I'm proud of it. And that's been a good process through this, is kind of finding back a little bit of a hobby, and really a craftsman hobby that I enjoy.
When I asked that question, I was like, Paul, you dummy. He's got 5-year-old twins. He doesn't have hobbies.
I don't have personal time. Like, I could escape to the garage for a little bit for making some cabinetry, or we're constantly renovating something in the house. That's just me. I could do that, but it is rare to have time to like go do something just for Tom.
Okay, I got one more. I keep saying it. One more. All right, earlier you said when you quit drinking, you were like an emotional baby, and that is the same for everybody across the board. I think my wife would still say, hey, Paul, you're an emotional baby. At times, I'm getting better. How was your emotional response to life?
I'm doing much better now. In the first couple of months, it's awkward. You don't really know how to handle a lot of situations. And I would say it's one of the biggest challenges, is just being able to deal with situations and feelings and uncomfortable situations that you were used to burying or dealing with while you're drunk. I think the biggest thing is if you can tolerate it, or if you can figure out a way to deal with it, or even thrive with it. If you could do it for a minute, you can do it for 2 minutes. You can do it for 3 minutes. But it's hardest to get to that first minute, jumping into it and actually dealing with emotions, having hard conversations, looking at real things in life that you need to plan for and, budget for. It seems scary, and it seems like you don't have the capacity to do it. And you can figure out a way. You start to learn how to deal with your emotions and become more and more confident in your mental capacity and how you can deal with life as an adult.
Tom, we have reached the rapid fire round. If you could answer these questions in 5 to 10 seconds, that would be great. Are you ready?
Yes.
What's the one thing you've learned about yourself on this journey?
I'm resilient.
What's your favorite sober moment?
I would say my favorite sober moment is going skiing with my kids.
What's the coolest thing about Connecticut?
I'm not sure. It's not that cool of a state.
All right, appreciate your honesty. What's the point of life, Tom?
The point of life is to make meaningful contributions to things that are important in your life. I think you have to kind of thrive on joyful moments and really take time to soak them in, because life is long and you have a lot of even keel, you have a little bit of down, and the ups, I think you got to live with those and try to enjoy them the best you can.
What's your favorite alcohol-free beverage?
Diet Coke. As soon as I stop drinking, I'm addicted to Diet Coke now. Can't stop.
What are your thoughts on trees?
I love trees, but if they're in the way of construction, I cut them down.
What parting piece of guidance can you give to somebody who wants to quit drinking?
You can do it. It's hard to get to that first hurdle, to look at yourself and say, I'm going to give this up. But if you can make it through the first couple of days and start to see the benefit, it'll get better every day. There'll be hard moments, challenging moments, but don't give up. Every day will get better.
And before we depart, Tom, you might need to ditch the booze if. Let's hear it.
You got arrested 4 times before the age of 25.
Yeah, that works. It does. Tom, incredible job. Listeners, before we hit record, I was like, how are you feeling about the interview? He's like, I think this is going to be hard. You rocked it, man. Thank you for showing up, for hanging out in your car for another hour after work at the job site. I love it, man. I love the authenticity and the realness of you. So thank you for being here, Tom.
Thanks for having me.
I want to thank our production team for today's episode. We have our editor, Natasha, Robin on pre-production, and then Chris on the mixing decks, the ones and twos, putting it all together. I also want to thank our sponsors who help keep this show going. Recovery Elevator. Remember, this is an inside job. It all starts from the inside out. I love you guys.
I see you, Savior, I see you, Savior, Almighty Savior, I see you, Savior, I see you, Savior, I see you, Savior, Almighty Savior, I see you, Savior.